All right, so you heard all about connected vehicle, autonomous vehicles, so I'm not going to go there. What I'm going to do is ask how many public sector people like me are in the audience? Thank you for the job that you do. You toil in relative anonymity. I actually like Mike. He's a very energetic legislator. I have seen the opposite. How many of you are vendors that are vendors here? Thank you, Gary. Nice to see you. Consultants? Okay, so about 50% consultants who you probably worked for Caltrans at one time or another, so thank you if you did a good job. If you didn't do a good job, there's something wrong here. So we got a 50-50 between consultants and people. So what's happening today is we have a connected vehicle program. This connected vehicle program, and I didn't realize Richard had worked on the AHS program, but Caltrans adopted the AHS program many, many years ago. And the reason why is because there's a lot of people killed on our roadways and highways in the nation. So I remember Secretary Mineta. I'm very proud to say I know Secretary Mineta. He was the Transportation Secretary. And during this time he said, my top priority is to reduce the fatality rate in the United States. So about 42,000 people were killed on our roadways and highways in the United States. So to put that in perspective, there was about 58,000 people killed in the Vietnam War. So every year and a half, more people are killed on our roadways than in the Vietnam War over that decade. And so we deal with a lot of fatalities. Today, you're going to see the numbers, hopefully. I think I have that in here. And also the issue of, I'm on the National Freight Advisory Committee, and thank you to ITS America, they nominated me. I'm there kind of representing all of you in the technology area. And so we have 316 million people in the United States. By the year 2050, it's slated to go to 400 million. You're going to have mobility issues, but you're also going to have, because of that, you're going to have issues getting your freight, your clothes, your groceries to your homes. So how do we deal with that, public sector people? How are you going to adopt and adapt to that without technology? It's going to be a big problem. And in the environment, in California, we're really keen, AB 32, SB 375, reducing greenhouse gases. We think there's a great opportunity here. And so when we ran the AHS program, there were General Motors, a partnership between U.S. Department of Transportation, Caltrans, UC Berkeley, PATH, Partners for Advanced Transit and Highways, and General Motors. If you lift up the lid of that trunk was literally stuffed with computers, these PCATs, if you remember those. There's probably 5 or 6 of them, and they had special fans because that trunk got warm. And if that trunk got too warm, that whole system shut down. So I'm going to show you some innovations in that area. So the idea is the drivers, if you're all great drivers, right? You're all perfect drivers, but it's the other guy, right? It's the other guy. So what we're trying to do is give you some awareness of what's happening around you with all the sensors. And I think that's really one of the outcomes of the automated highway system is sensors. I think Bob stole my thunder. He stole my slide even. He said 80% of vehicle crash scenarios involving unimpaired drivers. But you have greater situational awareness. At Caltrans, before I left, our tort liability fund was about $50 million. We spent over $50 million in tort liability. Now, local officials like Zaki down in L.A., I mean, your tort fund is pretty large, right? You could probably build an interchange a year if you saved on tort liability. So some research is going on. Dennis C's here. He didn't get a plug, but they are actually studying connected vehicles at TTI. Virginia has a test bed. Shelley had just left ITE, went to work for United States Department of Transportation, JPO, and I came to visit her at the TRB annual meeting. The reason why I did that is the US DOT was saying those Mavericks out there on the West Coast, they want to test all these frequencies. They don't want to test DSRC. And I'm not here plugging DSRC. There are some advantages. I know Eva's going to talk a little bit about some of the pitfalls of DSRC and how that's going to get to market. But we were testing Wi-Fi in those days, WiMAX, 4G, LTE. These things weren't there 5 or 6 years ago. They were talked about. So she said, if you do all your testing using DSRC, then we'll name you as one of the test beds. So California was the second test bed behind Michigan. And so there's a lot of research, a lot of testing going on in this area. And you can see the program objectives, safety. What we're doing is we're trying to get V2V, V2I. There's a lot of data opportunities for you folks out there in the public sector that you're trying to figure out, how do I get to that data? Do I pay for it? Do I just not have it? Do I worry about signal timing? All these things are, if you're going to add, another 100 million people to the population of the United States, I'm sure some of them are going to live in your community. I'm not sure how many. Most of them probably want to go to LA and live in LA and San Francisco. Some of the key program, mobility, we talked a little bit about mobility. Imagine weather information, right? It's raining. Imagine there's an area that consistently the ABS goes off in the cars. What happens there? What do you do? The old adage, at least from a public sector's perspective, is how many people have to die before you do something? Well, I say that if a car skids and another car skids, we got to go out and take a look at it. But how do you know where they're skidding? This information is going to be valuable to you now and into the future. The weather information, when are you going to sand, when are you going to salt if you have snow in your communities? We dealt with that a little bit at Caltrans. And just data mining. It's very, very difficult to get data. So this is the weather, the environmental, road weather. I touched on that. Some of the enablers. So one of the things that I like to say is that when I had my first cell phone, because I was a duty officer, I was in Caltrans's District 10, Stockton, and the phone was the size of a shoebox. It had a strap on it, and it looked like something out of Get Smart, and you popped it and you made a conversation. And it cost, I don't know how many dollars a minute, but I didn't really care because I was pretty cool because I had probably one of the few people that actually had a cell phone. And I used to carry that on the golf course because when you're the duty officer, you carried that bag phone wherever you went. And after a while, it got too heavy. And so I remember the flip phone came out. And the flip phone actually, in my opinion, revolutionized this whole cell phone industry because it was Motorola made it for. It was a very small phone. It had a large battery. It could last a long time, and it looked pretty cool. And so I went into my boss's office and I said, "Hey, Gordon Martz, I'd like to buy a new flip phone from Motorola. It's $400. He said, "No way. Get out of my office." So I left his office. This is education for your government officials. So I started thinking in my office, and I go, I think I made the wrong pitch. So I went back into his office, and I said, "Hey, Gordon, I want to buy 2 cell phones, one for you and one for me." He goes, "All right, buy 2. But the amazing thing about cell industry in those days is the bandwidth, the amount of data you could run through your cell phone, video, all that data. And so today, a lot of the research that's going on for first responders is all data. It used to be all satellite. Today it's all data. You can move a lot of data. So the DSRC, so you look at the bottom right, that Safari box. That box right there in the lower right-hand corner took the place of those 5 computers in the trunk of those General Motors cars. Today at PATH, we have transit buses that actually are platooned, and we have Freightliner trucks. We bought those trucks when I was at Caltrans, and we outfitted with that technology. So if you ever get out to Richmond Field Station in California, take a ride in one of those buses because it's amazing when the bus driver, he's a PhD, but he has this Class B license. He's driving this big old bus around. He gets out of the chair, walks and sits down and says, "This is what we're going to do next. This is what the bus is going to do." You can literally put your finger like this, and that bus will dock next to a docking station and not rub that tire and not ruin your fingers as well. So DSRC technology for safety, they mentioned they're better at it than I am, but low latency. It was 75 megahertz set aside by the FCC at the 5.9 gigahertz spectrum, and that's worth $1 gazillion. And so how can we use it? And you'll hear more about that at our next session. Not a shameless plug, I'm sorry, but you should attend that to find out what's going to happen. Other telecommunications, it's your LTE 4G. You can move a lot of data through those systems. You get infotainment. I talked a little bit about some of the safety. End of queue warning. You can get your information on how fast your flows are going on your city streets, but almost as important is push data to that location saying these lights are synced for 37 miles per hour. Whatever that information you need can be pushed to your car by location. And then you saw this slide. There's a lot of different applications on your cell phones that you can get. And this is the connected vehicle program support. And you know, Shelley's a visionary. She actually had said, Caltrans, you can be part of the team, and we really appreciate it. I appreciate that. She must have caught a lot of grief from her people about that. And then this is the safety pilot that some I think Bob talked a little bit about. And here's some quotes from NHTSA, from outgoing Secretary LaHood, and then Greg Winfrey. I think he's going to get appointed, or he's on the docket to get appointed as the RITA, Research Innovative Technology Administrator. So we're excited to see him move up. And here's some of the other opportunities. You've got great opportunities to create safety applications. So if you're in the app building business, you can create some safety applications, create mobility applications, and then your environment as well. So this is the Contra Costa Transportation Authority's sign that we're trying to advertise, and so I really appreciate the time. Thank you.